Since this channel mostly focuses on superhero comics, you might be surprised to know that I used to be an absolute manga fanatic, and one of my favorite series was Death Note. Hell, I even used to cosplay as L. I mean, badly, but still, it's there. But since I do mostly focus on Western comics, I have been really out of the loop when it comes to manga. But when I heard that there was a sequel to one of my favorite series of all time with the original creative team doing it, well, I had to jump in on this. The last chapter of the original Death Note series was released in 2006, but there was a sequel one-shot that was released in 2008. Now, that follow-up was honestly a little bit disappointing in my opinion, since really not a lot ended up happening. I mean, yeah, the new Death Note user was killing a bunch of people, but he really didn't have the stomach for it and killed himself shortly after. Madeira, the Shinigami that gave the new, unnamed, and unseen human the note, admitted that this experiment was a failure, and wouldn't you know it, the new sequel one-shot starts up where the last one left off with this failure. Simply called Death Note Special One-Shot, this new sequel provided a true successor to Light Yagami, and maybe it's because the last piece of Death Note related media that I consumed was this. This one-shot was insanely good, and although it was super entertaining and wrapped up very nicely and satisfactory, I really wish that we got a lot more. This is super uncharacteristic of me because I really don't like seeing pointless rehashes whenever there's a good, satisfactory story that's already been told. So the fact that this won me over is really saying a lot. Obviously, when talking about the plot of the book, there are going to be spoilers, so if you'd like to avoid them, then please check out the chapter on Shonen Jump's website, where it is completely free and in English. Years after the events of the last series, we see that Ryuk was really bored, so he brought the Death Note to Minoru Tanaka, a brilliant kid in the same caliber as Light Yagami. However, the events of the previous series have gone down in infamy, and knowing its history, Tanaka was a lot more hesitant to use the Death Note's powers. By expertly taking advantage of the established rules of Ryuk being invisible and memory loss when the Death Note is given up, Tanaka was able to stir up chaos on a global scale, as he auctioned off the book to world governments, with Donald Trump being very interested in it. Yeah, I don't think that anybody could have predicted that this would be official Death Note art, and I'm honestly still kind of in shock because of it. With the auction in progress, there really wasn't much that anybody could do to stop it. Even Nier, who had since taken up the mantle of L, was powerless to do anything to stop this new Kira, or a Kira as Tanaka was later dubbed. Honestly, I was never a big fan of Nier to begin with, so all of the stuff in the sequel involving him felt like a major waste of time from my perspective, especially since he really didn't end up doing much of anything in the one-shot. Actually, now that I think about it, pretty much all of the returning characters really didn't do a lot, which I do think is for the best, as it allows for the story to focus in on the new elements instead of just pandering to the reader's nostalgia, and I think this was the right move. The ending took me by complete surprise, and despite the spoiler warning, I would be remiss to talk about it here, in the off chance that you still might not have read it. The big thing is that I absolutely adore how the Death Note was able to cause so much chaos without Tanaka writing a single name in it. This totally feels like this was the right way to handle bringing back a property like this. I mean, we've seen all of the epic writing and manipulation and potato chip eating before, but this, what is essentially a pacifist run, led to some very unique situations. It would have been easy for writer Tsugumi Oba to rehash the machinations of the previous series and fill it with senseless fan service, but this one-shot was everything that I didn't know that I wanted. But here is the inevitable question. Where does Death Note go from here? Well, we did get to see a little bit more of the Shinigami society, so that could really be a lot of fun to explore. Death Note as a series has really thrived on great character interactions, so something a lot more focused on the Shinigami could be a lot of fun. Alternatively, how about instead of looking towards the future, we could take a step back and take a look at a Death Note user from before Light Yagami's time with it. When I tweeted about how much I love the one-shot, I got a really cool response from one of my fans who had the brilliant idea of telling an anthology series of small arcs covering various characters using the Death Note, but I don't know if that would be super possible given the ending of the one-shot. The ending of the sequel brought about some massive changes on a global scale, and that would be really hard to follow up, which makes it seem really unlikely that we ever will see another one of these books. But then again, the original series did have a massive global impact on its world, and the sequel seemingly had little trouble playing with it. Switching gears for a second, one of the reasons why Invincible is my favorite comic series of all time is because of how it handles large sweeping changes to its world, and if the Death Note one-shot is anything to go off of, it could really be a lot of fun to see this envelope being pushed further and further. Though, with all of that being said, I'm also fine with the Death Note series ending here for good, rather than risk it becoming worse and worse with future iterations. I really do think that this one-shot is one of the best advertisements that Shonen Jump could have ever made for their digital service. I mean, content is super important for any platform, and to give something this popular and in demand away for free is a brilliant move that is likely to draw in a lot of attention to the service. Anyway, that's really all I had to say because even though it was really good, there really wasn't a lot of content for me to talk about in the one-shot. I'm honestly just glad that this came out, and for me, who hasn't really followed the manga scene in a while, this came out of complete nowhere, and it is really, really nice to get a break from all the constant superhero stuff that I'm always having to read for this channel. I love it, but I have more interest than just that. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little diversion from my usual content, and if you enjoyed me talking about manga, then definitely let me know down there in the comments below.